I remember that afternoon vividly. The sky hung low, clouds bruised with rain, and my hands trembled around the clinic's report envelope as if it contained the weight of my entire life. The doctor's words still echoed in my ears, dull and cruel. "You need to rest, Mrs. Taylor. Your heart has been under too much stress. You must avoid emotional strain." How could I avoid strain when my entire life felt like one long ache? My husband David had passed away just 8 months ago after a car accident that shattered not only his body but the core of our family. My son, Ethan, was away at college, rarely calling, too busy with exams and youth to remember the woman who had once read him bedtime stories under a soft yellow lamp. And I was left in a house that used to ring with laughter, now filled with silence so heavy it pressed against my chest. As I drove home from the clinic, every street looked unfamiliar, as if grief had repainted the world in gray. My fingers gripped the steering wheel tightly, and I whispered to myself that maybe tonight I'd just sleep early and forget everything for a while. When I pulled into the driveway, the porch light flickered, the same one David promised to fix before he died. It was strange. I could swear I saw another light from inside, faint but warm as if someone had lit a candle. I shook my head. Probably a reflection, I told myself. I opened the door slowly, the faint scent of lavender air freshener greeting me, the kind I hadn't used since before David's accident. My bag slipped from my shoulder as I stepped into the living room, and what I saw next made my knees buckle. The room was glowing with the soft light of candles, dozens of them spread around the walls and coffee table. In the center was our old family photo, the one taken at Ethan's 10th birthday when we couldn't stop laughing after David dropped the cake by accident. Beside the photo was a small note. My breath caught as I reached for it, my fingers trembling too hard to hold the paper still. It read, "Welcome home, Mom. I thought you needed to feel love again." Tears blurred my vision instantly. I called out his name, "Ethan?" But there was no answer, just the soft hum of rain starting to fall outside. I walked toward the kitchen and froze again. On the table was dinner, steaming bowls of my favorite chicken soup, fresh bread, and a small cake that looked messy but sweetly made, with uneven icing spelling, "We love you." My chest tightened. I hadn't tasted homemade food in weeks, living mostly on toast and coffee. I pressed a hand to my mouth and sank into the nearest chair, crying into my palms. For a moment I thought I was dreaming, that my lonely heart had imagined this. But then I heard it. A door creaked softly from down the hall. My heart leapt, my pulse racing faster than my weak body could handle. I turned, whispering, "Ethan?" From the hallway came footsteps, slow, cautious, and then a tall young man appeared, holding a bouquet of daisies, David's favorite flowers. It was Ethan. His eyes looked tired but bright, his hair messy, and his lips trembling in a half-smile. I gasped and stood up, clutching my chest. "Mom," he said softly, setting the flowers on the table, "I couldn't let you be alone today. I know the doctor said you weren't doing well. I wanted to surprise you." I stepped forward, unable to find words. For months I'd been drowning in loneliness, believing my son had drifted away. But there he was, taller, older, but still my little boy who once cried when I left him at school. I held his face in my hands, feeling the warmth of life there, and suddenly all the emptiness inside me cracked open. "You're here," I whispered. "You came home," he nodded. "I did, and I brought someone with me." Before I could ask, a soft voice came from behind him. A girl stepped forward, holding a small box wrapped in gold paper. "Hi, Mrs. Taylor," she said nervously. "I'm Mia, Ethan's girlfriend. I hope it's okay I came." Her eyes were kind, her smile trembling with sincerity. I stared at her, speechless, until Ethan gently placed his arm around her. "Mom, we wanted to tell you in person. I'm sorry I haven't been calling much. I've been working extra hours so I could help out here. We're moving back home. I'm transferring to a local college so I can be with you." My hands flew to my mouth as I felt my knees weaken again. The shock, the joy, the overwhelming relief, it was too much. I sank into the chair as tears poured freely, the kind of tears that heal. "Oh, Ethan," I managed to whisper, "you didn't have to give up your life for me." He shook his head, his own eyes wet. You gave up your whole world for me, Mom. It's my turn. The room felt alive again, as if the walls themselves exhaled with warmth. I looked around. The candles flickered gently, casting golden reflections on the family photo, on the dinner table, on the faces of the two young people who represented everything I'd ever lived for. In that moment, I realized something profound. Love doesn't die when someone leaves. It just waits, quietly, patiently, for the right moment to return and remind us why we keep going. Ethan and Mia joined me at the table and we ate together, laughing awkwardly at first, then freely, the sound of it echoing like a forgotten song. For the first time since David's death, I felt full, not just from food, but from presence, from belonging. Later that night, after dishes were done and laughter still lingered in the air, Ethan handed me the gold-wrapped box. "Open it," he said. Inside was a small photo album, the first page showing a picture of David holding baby Ethan in his arms. The next pages were filled with pictures I hadn't seen in years, old vacations, Christmas mornings, and candid smiles. On the last page was a handwritten message. "We can't bring Dad back, but we can bring love back home." I looked up, sobbing, and Ethan leaned forward to hug me tightly. "He'd want you to keep living, Mom," he whispered. "So let's do that. Together." That night as I went to bed, the sound of rain tapping on the window felt like a lullaby instead of loneliness. For the first time, I didn't dread tomorrow. I knew I wasn't alone anymore. And to everyone listening right now, maybe you've been carrying your own kind of loneliness. Maybe your house feels too quiet or your heart too heavy. But please remember, love has a way of finding its way back when you least expect it. Don't give up on life just because it hurts right now. Sometimes miracles don't arrive with thunder or light. Sometimes they come quietly, in the footsteps of someone who still cares. So if this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel Autosphere, where stories of hope, courage, and the beauty of second chances live on. Because no matter how tired you are never truly alone. Love is always waiting to come home. The morning after Ethan and Mia came home felt like waking up inside a dream that refused to fade with the sunlight. For months, I had woken to silence, the kind that presses on your chest until you forget what laughter sounds like. But that day, I woke to the smell of coffee, to the faint sound of music from the kitchen, to the rhythm of life softly returning. I lay still for a moment, eyes half open, letting the warmth of the new day seep into me. For the first time in a long time, I didn't dread the hours ahead. I sat up slowly, clutching the blanket to my chest, and gazed around my bedroom. The same floral curtains David chose because he said they reminded him of spring. The same old photo on the dresser of the three of us at the lake, smiling despite the wind. My heart ached, but not in the same way as before. This ache was softer, almost tender. The kind that reminds you you're still alive. When I walked into the kitchen, Ethan was standing at the stove in his pajamas, humming off-key while flipping pancakes. Mia was setting the table, her hair tied up messily, her smile easy and warm. For a second, I just stood there watching them, afraid to blink in case they vanished like a dream. "You're up early," Mia said when she noticed me. Ethan turned and grinned. "Morning, Mom. Hope you like pancakes. We may have burned the first few." The table was a delightful mess. Flour on the counter, butter smeared near the toaster, orange juice spilling slightly over the glass. And somehow, it was the most beautiful sight I'd seen in months. "It's perfect," I said, my voice cracking slightly. Ethan frowned. "You okay?" I nodded, swallowing the lump in my throat. "More than okay." We sat down together, and as I watched them talk and laugh over the pancakes, I realized something quietly miraculous. The house wasn't lonely anymore. It breathed again, as though the walls themselves had been waiting for this moment. After breakfast, I went into the living room to open the curtains, and sunlight poured in like liquid gold, catching on the photo frames. As I straightened one, a small envelope fell from behind it. My heart skipped. It was old, yellowed slightly, with David's handwriting on the front. "For when you're ready." My hands trembled as I sat down, tracing the letters. His handwriting was so familiar it felt like he was sitting beside me again. Ethan noticed and came over. "Mom, what's that?" I smiled faintly, tears already forming. "It's from your father." I took a deep breath and opened it. Inside was a short letter, written in that steady, comforting tone I could still hear in my mind. "My love, if you're reading this, it means I couldn't keep my promise to grow old with you. I'm sorry, but I need you to do something for me. Live. Really live. Don't let the walls of our house become your prison. Don't let grief steal the laughter we built. You have the kindest heart I've ever known. Don't let it grow quiet. Love our son. Love yourself. And when you feel lost, look for me in the small things, in the morning sun, in Ethan's smile, in the sound of rain on the window. I'll always be there." I covered my mouth as the words blurred through tears. Ethan wrapped his arms around me, his head resting gently on mine. "He always knew what to say," he murmured. I nodded, unable to speak. Mia knelt beside me, her eyes wet too. "He sounds like he was wonderful," she said softly. I smiled through my tears. He was. The letter felt like a bridge between what was and what is, between the ache of the past and the quiet strength of now. It didn't erase the pain, but it reminded me that grief is just love that doesn't know where to go yet. And maybe, just maybe, love always finds its way home. That afternoon, we decided to do something David had always wanted: fix up the old garden. The weeds had grown tall, wild, almost reclaiming the yard, but under them still lived the roses he'd planted years ago. Ethan brought out tools, Mia fetched gloves, and I sat on the porch pruning the smaller plants, feeling the breeze touch my face. As we worked, Ethan found a rusted tin box buried under the soil near the old oak tree. "Mom, look what I found!" he shouted, brushing off the dirt. Inside were old family photos, letters, and a small notebook. My heart skipped. I remembered that notebook. It was the one David used to write his thoughts in, though he never let anyone read it. We opened it together, and inside were pages filled with simple, heartfelt notes, grocery lists mixed with reflections about life and family. On one page, dated just a few days before his accident, he'd written, "If anything ever happens to me, I hope Anna knows she gave me a life worth every breath. And I hope Ethan grows up to be the kind of man who remembers to come home." The world seemed to stand still. Ethan looked at me, his voice trembling. "Mom, he wrote that about us." I nodded, tears rolling down freely. "He did, sweetheart. He always believed in us." It felt like David was speaking from somewhere between the earth and sky, whispering through time. As the sun began to set, the three of us sat in the garden, surrounded by flowers and memories, and for the first time in a long time, the ache of missing him turned into something softer. Gratitude. That night, after dinner, we sat on the couch, looking through the old photo albums again. Ethan told stories from his childhood, laughing over moments I had almost forgotten. The time David tried to build a treehouse and fell off the ladder. How we burned the Thanksgiving turkey and ended up eating cereal for dinner. How every year David wrote secret notes and hid them around the house for me to find. Listening to Ethan talk about his father, I realized he had inherited not just David's eyes or smile, but his heart. Patient, steady, full of quiet love. Mia leaned against him, laughing too, and I felt an overwhelming peace watching them. Before going to bed, I stepped outside into the cool night air. The stars shone softly, and somewhere a nightbird sang. I whispered into the wind, "Thank you, David, for everything." For reminding me that love doesn't end. It just changes shape. A gentle breeze brushed my face, and for a moment, I could almost feel his presence, like an embrace carried on the wind. I closed my eyes and let it linger.